You know, AI gets thrown around a lot, right? It's kind of become this big buzzword. But what happens when you actually use it to solve a real painful business problem? Well, in this explainer, we're going to dive into a case study about a company called Skyways Media. They used AI to tackle a problem that, let's be honest, is a pretty good problem to have: explosive growth. But being ready for it? That's a whole other story.
Okay, before we get into the weeds, let's jump straight to the end result, because honestly, it's staggering. I want you to imagine this. You're going from only being able to connect with, less than a third of your potential new customers to engaging with every single one. Yeah, 100%. That one number, that's the punchline to this whole story we're about to tell. So the big question is, how on earth did they do it?
All right, so to really get the solution, we have to go back and understand the problem. So let's meet Skyways Media. They're a global leader in publishing, and things were going great. I mean, they were growing incredibly fast. But that's the thing about fast growth. It can cause the whole system to start cracking under the pressure. And for Skyways, it created some really serious bottlenecks.
And look, this is a question so many businesses run into, right? What happens when your sales, your ops, your support, they just can't keep up with all the demand? You've got more leads than you know what to do with, your operations folks are drowning in manual tasks, and your support team is totally swamped. For Skyways, this wasn't some theoretical problem. It was their daily crisis, and it was literally putting a ceiling on how much they could grow.
When you boil it all down, their challenges really fell into three big buckets. First up, lead overload. We're talking thousands of potential customers just sitting in a list, waiting for a call that might never come. Second, what they called the creative asset chase. Oh man, their team was spending days just hounding advertisers for stuff like logos and ad copy. And finally, product support gaps. Simple, right? Customers have questions 24/7, but the support team clocked out at 5.
So, here's the million-dollar question. How do you solve three huge, totally different problems all at once without having to go out and hire a whole army of people? Well, Skyways got creative. They used a specialized AI platform to build something they call an agentic workforce. And let me tell you, this wasn't just a tweak. It completely changed the way they did business.
So you're probably wondering, what in the world is an agentic workforce? It's actually a pretty cool concept. Don't think of it as one big single AI. Think of it more like a virtual team. Each member, or agent, is a specialized AI program. Its whole job is to do one high-volume, super repetitive task, and do it really, really well. And that frees up the actual human team to focus on the stuff they're best at.
So Skyways didn't just throw technology at the problem. They took a really targeted, almost surgical approach. They built 3 separate AI agents, and each one was designed to attack a very specific bottleneck. They had a Sales-Qual Agent to tackle that lead overload, an asset collection agent to stop the endless creative chase, and a product support agent to fill in those 24/7 gaps. Pretty smart.
Now remember how we started this whole thing with that insane 100% lead engagement number? Well, turns out that was just the tip of the iceberg. The real transformation, the whole picture, really comes into focus when you start looking at the hard data from across the entire business.
The before and after numbers, they basically tell the whole story. Lead coverage, it shot up from under 30% to a perfect 100%. The sales reps' calendars went from being half empty to over 90% full, and get this, only with people who were actually ready to talk. The entire system just got faster, way more efficient, and so much more effective. Let's really zoom in on a couple of these key numbers. Okay, let's start with that first bottleneck we talked about, the creative asset chase. The AI agent just slashed the time it took by 70%. 70! What used to take 10 days of people sending manual emails and follow-ups now took just 3 days of automated persistent work. And that one little change meant publications got done faster, which meant the money came in quicker. It's a domino effect.
And then you got customer support. Response times went from hours, and only during business hours, mind you, to under 60 seconds, around the clock, 24/7. But the really amazing part isn't just the speed, it's the autonomy. The AI agent was able to completely resolve almost half, 45% of all support tickets all by itself. No human ever had to touch it.
So the impact on the bottom line? It was huge. This AI workforce was doing the work of 6 full-time employees. That saved the company about $600,000 a year just in payroll. But honestly, the real game changer was that they finally separated their growth from their costs. All of a sudden, they can handle 5 times the number of campaigns without their expenses going through the roof. I mean, that is the literal definition of scalable growth.
Okay, So Skyways got some truly incredible results. We've seen the numbers. But what can the rest of us learn from what they did? What are the big lessons we can pull from this real-world, on-the-front-lines example of AI?
Well, the CEO of the company, Jack Helm, he puts it really simply. He said the whole approach has driven millions of dollars in new business. And he points to this really powerful advantage they have now. They can build new agents on demand whenever a new problem pops up.
If you really break it down, their success comes down to 3 key lessons. First, go after your biggest, highest volume pain point first. For them, that was qualifying leads, and it gave them an immediate return on their investment. Second, build knowledge that you can reuse. They made this whole Q&A pack for one industry, and then they were able to tweak it for a totally different industry in just a few hours. And third, and this one is so important, keep the human touch. Their sales reps could jump into any AI chat at any moment, so they never lost that critical personal connection.
And all of this really brings us to what's next. See, for Skyways Media, this wasn't just some one-off project. They didn't just buy a piece of software. What they really did was build a whole new virtual department, one that's constantly evolving and taking on new jobs.
So what is next for them? Well, they're already planning out the next wave of AI agents. They're talking about a revenue uplift agent that can recommend upsells, a billing ops bot to handle invoicing automatically, and even a sentiment monitoring agent to flag unhappy customers the second it happens. They are literally going through their business and systematically automating every single high-volume task they can find.
And that right there is the ultimate takeaway. Skyways Media took AI from being just a buzzword, and they turned it into a fully staffed, super effective virtual department that works around the clock, no new hires needed. It really proves a point, doesn't it? That sometimes the biggest thing holding you back from growing isn't a lack of people, it's a lack of automation. So the real question to ask yourself isn't if you need a virtual workforce, it's which boring, repetitive task are you going to free your human team from first?